Inconceivable!
Will you please act like you have more than a 2-word vocabulary?
Is there air? You don't know!
And now, a yak.
Yak! Yeah.
Hey, don't touch that dial. You found Secular Yakking.
I'm Robert.
And I'm Amy.
After years,
No, many years of yakking at each other.
we're here to yak at you.
So sit back and enjoy the yakking.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful week. Is that all you got? Indeed.
That's all I got.
That's all you got. Okay.
It was a long week.
It was.
It was fast, but it was long. Okay, that makes sense.
Anyway.
Hopefully everyone else had good weeks.
Yeah. I mean, it was decent. Nothing exciting.
Really not exciting. Kind of a better way to...
All right. Again, we are going to start with our new disclaimer that
Yes.
there may be some objectionable language.
Just minimal,
Okay.
but yes, objectionable.
We might eventually record a intro with the disclaimer on it. That way we don't have to say it every time.
That would absolutely make much more sense.
Anyways, let's get into this week's subject.
Let's do it.
Well, obviously, everybody knows it's the holidays.
Indeed.
And in keeping with traditions, I have a holiday theme show.
Which I think is okay.
Yeah.
So bring it on.
All right. We're going to start up in the U.S. Capitol
Okay.
with a nativity scene depicting the birth of Jesus being displayed at the U.S. Capitol. It's not just any holiday decoration. This is the first time in history something like this has happened, and it raises serious questions about separation of church and state.
Oh, what separation of church and state?
You know there is one.
Is there?
There should be.
Not anymore.
While supported...
Sorry, there should be.
There
Is correct.
should be.
Yeah.
While supporters frame it as a celebration of religious freedom, we believe this display crosses a significant line.
Absolutely.
Right? The U.S. Constitution guarantees the right to freedom of religion, but it also guarantees the right to freedom from religion.
Correct.
Right? And it mandates the government remain neutral in religious matters.
As they should. The government should always stay neutral.
So by putting a Christian nativity scene, you can't see it as any other.
No.
There is no other religion that has a nativity scene.
And there's no other way to see it than
Right.
this being a Christian
And
thing.
Yeah, it sends a message that the United States government is somehow favoring Christianity.
Somehow favoring.
Yes. So, Reverend Mark Harris, one of the event organizers, described the scene as a testament to America's Judeo-Christian heritage.
No.
So-
There's so many other religions, and do they get to display theirs?
No,
That's what I'm saying.
they didn't. There was no option for it. Right? So, here's my problem with Judeo-Christian heritage.
Uh-huh.
There was no such thing as Judeo-Christian heritage before the 30s. Yeah, it didn't exist.
Because they make up shit as they go.
Right? Christian, yeah, the country's always been Christian-ish. Or full of Christians, I should say.
That's a better
It's not
way.
a Christian nation, it's a nation full of Christians.
That's a much better
Right?
way to put that.
But
yes.
I hate the way they use this Judeo-Christian heritage bullshit.
Yeah.
Because it's not. For centuries, Christians have persecuted the Jewish people.
Absolutely.
And then suddenly, because one guy gets really evil, they decide that they're going to adopt this Judeo-Christian motto.
Yeah, and it's always just the Christian way. They don't, when they go to put this thing up, they don't offer other religions to display theirs alongside it. It's just automatically they do the Christian thing.
Right.
Let alone, the part that is non-religious.
Right.
But it's not even brought up when whoever is working on this, it was in the works prior to putting it out. They didn't think at that time, hey, why don't we go ask all these other faiths, would you like to put a display up along with ours? At least that would be the nice thing to do. Although, in my opinion, there should be none.
Right.
Because it is government, separation, church and state. Regardless of what your faith is or who, your faith is or yours, it doesn't belong in government, period.
It does not. Sarah Silvers, the executive director of Americans United for Separation of Church and State, voiced concern over this display, saying, "This is a troubling development. Government spaces should remain neutral to honor diversity of beliefs in our nation."
Agreed.
Yeah, I absolutely support the Americans United. Well, I have for years.
I completely agree with that.
They're not the only group that does this, but they were the ones that happen to be working on this one.
Yeah.
And we do understand people's desire to celebrate religious traditions. There's a place for that. Right? And it's not on government property.
I was going to say, it's just not on government
it's
property.
On your private property. It's on church property. I don't care if businesses
Your
do
private
it.
businesses, for
Right?
sure. Absolutely. And I have nothing wrong with them displaying their thing. Just don't do it on government grounds.
Right.
That's my biggest issue with it.
Yeah. And this happens every year. This just happens to be the first year it was actually the actual U.S. Capitol.
Oh, gotcha.
This happens all over the place.
I was going to say
every single year.
Yeah.
It's the annual war on Christmas.
Every
which,
year.
Which, by the way, is only waged by Christians.
Have you noticed that? They're literally the only ones who were saying there's a war on Christmas.
Every single year. I've been in this battle for well over a decade.
Long time, yes.
Probably a decade and a half.
It's the same thing over and over, year after year. And does it even change?
No, it never changes.
I don't believe it does.
Nope, never changes.
Yeah.
In fact, let's go to our next story because it did change a little bit.
Oh.
Yes, it did.
Okay.
In Toledo, Ohio, a nativity scene displayed on fire department lawn sparked unusual controversy. Obviously, separation of church and state, right? After some back and forth, the scene ultimately returned to the fire department. There's a line missing there. It went somewhere else, but it came back.
Okay.
Right? I somehow forgot to type
so
it
the
in.
display went away.
It moved to a church and then came back to the fire department.
To the fire department. Okay, gotcha.
Right. But at this time, it added something secular.
Okay.
Santa Claus.
I know that face. Wait, that was Santa, that picture you showed? Oh, okay.
No, it's got a Santa Claus. There's another picture that we'll get to in a minute.
Okay.
Right? So, apparently, adding Santa Claus somehow makes it inclusive and less overtly Christian.
No.
Santa Claus is still technically Christian.
Exactly.
The whole Santa
that's what I'm
means
saying.
saint. The guy's based off of saint.
It does not make it
right?
any less Christian, in my opinion.
Right. So, I mean, yes, Santa Claus has become the symbol of secular Christmas.
Commercial. No, it's just commercial.
Commercial Christmas.
It's commercial Christmas. Right. That's what it is.
Right. I mean, that's just, it's a cop-out. Right. It's not allowing anybody else in. It's still
a really
Christian Christmas,
cop
right?
out. It's like a sidestep. It's not really a change at all.
But in keeping with my need to make things worse,
okay,
it does get worse.
Oh,
right? Because I like to just dig in and make it seem so much.
Move on.
Okay. A local pastor. God, I get that right every time. Wrong every time. Wow. Was clearly not amused by the initial backlash to having Santa there. He decided to spice things up this year and include atheists.
Oh, that's ought to be.
He added a figure of King Herod to the church's nativity scene, and he had it wear a crown that reads atheist.
And in the photo, he was holding a knife, correct?
Yeah, he was holding a knife. Do you know what he's doing?
Kill Santa?
He's coming to kill baby Jesus.
Oh, baby Jesus. Oh, that's even lovelier.
So if you recall in the Gospels.
It's the baby eating atheist.
No. Let me get to this.
No.
So in the Gospels, when Jesus was born, King Herod sent around people to kill all the newborns.
Oh,
right. So, but Jesus' family ran to Egypt in one version and ran somewhere else in another version, or didn't run anywhere. I don't remember. There's a lot.
Lord.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Right.
Either way, this guy's using King Herod as his symbol for atheism, so that he can say he included atheist in his nativity scene.
Well, I was going to say, so by putting the word atheist on the crown makes it atheist.
Right.
Even though the entire thing is still his Christian base, let alone the fact that holding a knife in his hand, coming to kill baby, that's real sweet. That says a lot about what he thinks of atheists as well, by the way.
He's even wrong, though.
Yeah, well, obviously.
King Herod wasn't an atheist.
Duh.
King Herod was a Jewish king.
They don't even know their own stuff. I was going to say, well, I can
Yeah,
say
you can
they
say
don't know their
whatever.
own shit.
Yeah. And this is, again, another tactic in the war on Christmas.
It's the same thing, different verse, you know?
It's every single year.
Yep. And I don't think it'll ever stop, honestly.
No,
I really don't.
No.
I mean, and if anything, honestly, it's just going to continue to get worse if you think about it. Because technically, that's kind of a step up right there.
Yeah.
You know?
They're making it a step. Because each year it's gotten
a little
more,
bit,
right?
A little bit every year, yeah.
But that's also good news for us because that means we can do our annual War on Christmas episode every year.
Oh, yay.
Well, we've had one every year.
I know.
Except for the 7 years we weren't on.
Oh, just that. Oh, yes, and that's right, because it was 7 years, not 6, like we said last week.
I said last episode it was 6, and it's actually 7 years.
It's 7 years in January.
Yes.
Which, crazy.
Yeah, so crazy.
But yeah, I honestly, I think it'll continue to get slightly worse. And I'm actually curious what it'll be like next year.
Well, I don't...
With you-know-who being in office.
Yeah.
And
well, we call him Prince Trumperdink.
Oh, I like that. Prince Trumperdink? I like that.
But I remember years ago I had a Twitter account called Prince Trumperdink.
I kind of remember
and
that.
I would take things he said and make it sound like Prince Humperdinck was saying it. I don't know what happened to that
But
Twitter
I do
account.
think it with him in office and no holds bar and everything is just uglier and nastier than it ever was. I honestly could see it getting worse.
Yeah, that and he's throwing Christian nationalist into everything.
So, we'll see.
All right. Speaking of worse, because
really worse?
It's got to get worse. Now we're going to go to New Hampshire.
Okay.
So a goat-headed figure, the symbol of the Satanic Temple, was recently unveiled in Concord, New Hampshire, as their contribution to the annual holiday display.
Right.
Right.
They get a part in the display.
So if you have one, you have to have them all, right? That's the way it's supposed to be.
All right.
Right. It didn't go well.
It never does. Ever.
Within a couple of days, the statue was vandalized. The head ripped off, the robe was torn, a tablet inscribed with the Satanic Temple's tenets shattered.
I don't understand why they have such an issue with whenever the Satanic Temple puts up a display. Because we've had this issue back in Washington.
Yep.
They put up a display. I don't even think it made 24 hours
We
on that
put up
one.
a display.
We did that?
Yeah, we did that.
And I don't understand why they don't have enough strength in their own faith to be able to handle anyone else's faith standing next to it.
Yeah, we put up the rainbow solstice pole.
That's
from
right.
Chaz Stevens.
That's correct. And it was destroyed in like 24 hours, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I had to drive all the way back down to Olympia to pick up the remnants of it.
Yeah. Because, again, they don't have enough strength in their own faith to just be strong enough to not need to worry about anyone else's religion or non-religion standing next to them. You know, to me, that just shows weakness in their belief system. Not to mention the fact that they also have to advertise for their religion. If your religion is so great, why are you advertising? It should be fantastic and you don't need to advertise.
I agree.
Or shove it down people's throat.
Well, the mayor of Concord, Byron Champlin, I believe that's said right.
Probably not.
While condemning the vandalism, expressed his disapproval of display from the beginning. He claimed it wasn't about true religious pluralism, but rather calculated political stunt by an out-of-town organization.
No.
I mean, yes.
Well,
it is.
But the fact that they're just
But that's not the point. The Satanic Temple is a IRS recognized religion.
Yes, it is.
Right? And they have every right to be on the same square as the other recognized religions.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
It is a political stunt.
To shut them down, technically. If I get it right, it was originally so that they see the hypocrisy in putting them up on these government places where they shouldn't be. So if they don't want them there, then don't put up religious things.
That's the whole point. That is the Satanic Temple's entire concept. If you're going to have this, you need to share the space with us, someone we know you don't like.
Right. Otherwise, take it all down.
Right. And he also says, by definition, this is not a religion, which is wrong. And he thinks it shouldn't be shrouded in the illusion of some story of a religious statement. This is a common tactic used to dismiss and discredit minority religions.
So once again, they're telling someone else what their faith is.
Right.
They do this constantly.
Yeah.
They tell someone else what their faith is. And, they have such a fear and a weakness of anyone else, near them or different from them, actually, is what it is.
Yeah. But Representative Ellen Reed, who facilitated the display, not the design. She had nothing to do with the design. That was all TST. Yeah. Argued that if the city allows a nativity scene, it must also allow from other religious groups. She says, one of the most sacred things as a country is our First Amendment. And the idea that we do not have an established religion. On public grounds, if you're representing one religion, you have to represent them all.
Absolutely.
And she's absolutely right on this.
Absolutely. And I just wish that they would just leave it alone. If they're going to have one sitting there, what is the big deal of having someone else's sitting next to it on the same property? I mean, what is the big deal? Again, I come back to they obviously don't have enough faith in their own religion that intimidates them.
That they can't be questioned.
Yeah. I I just see it as weakness. Obviously,
Yeah.
you're not strong enough.
They're not willing to share the stage.
Well,
they
that
never have
too.
been.
No, they want it all. It's all their way, no highway option.
So, in case you haven't seen the picture, it's the Baphomet statue is the goat-headed Baphomet that we all know. But he's holding a bouquet of lilacs, which is state flower of New Hampshire, an apple, which represents free inquiry and the pursuit of knowledge. And they aim to challenge traditional notions of religious representation and promote more inclusive understanding of religious diversity.
I think it sounds
great,
wonderful,
right?
actually.
Now, normally I say there's worse news. It kind of is. But before that, there's some good news.
Well, that'd be nice.
A group of local artists helped put the statue back together again.
Oh, that's good.
Right? And they stated, violence and vandalism are not valid responses to something if you don't fully understand. This is a Live Free and Die State, if you recall. And that's the Concord Area Artists Coalition for Freedom of Speech and Freedom of Religion.
Good. That is nice to hear.
That is nice. So they helped put it together. It looked pretty much the same.
Uh-huh.
They pieced it together.
Yeah.
But then on Tuesday,
Oh, no.
it was broken again.
God damn, what is their problem? Just let it be.
I know.
I mean, seriously.
I haven't had any more updates on it.
I'm
so.
sure if they try and put it back together, they'll take it down again and again and again.
Yep, because people, there may be video footage of the vandalism. Maybe. Because there are cameras in the area.
That would be nice because
And
it
the
is
police
still
are-
considered a crime.
Right, it is a crime. And the police are investigating it.
I would hope so. You know what kills me is no one ever goes knocking down the baby Jesus
I know.
displays and all this shit.
Never a single
No one
one
ever touches those. And yet, if they did, they would lose their ever-loving mind.
Oh,
But
yeah.
at the same time, we don't see it as a need to. What is the point? One, violence does nothing.
No.
It doesn't help anything. And, obviously Satanic Temple has enough strength in their own faith that, they don't need to go destroy someone else's belief system,
Right.
Well,
what I love about Satanic Temple is they are a secular religion.
Yes, I do know that.
They see Satan as a metaphorical,
Right.
right? Someone that goes against the status quo, right? Not a demigod.
Right.
So,
And that's actually where a lot of Christians get it wrong. They hear Satanic Temple and whatnot, and they think, the devil kind of crap. And that's actually absolutely what they are not.
You're not talking to somebody else.
This is me. You remember me? You remember me? George Bailey.
Yep, George Bailey.
Yay, we get a Bailey.
We get a Bailey Award this week.
It's good for Christmas time.
Yeah, it's perfect for a Christmas episode.
Yeah,
It's
the
a
holiday-based one.
Yes, the holiday-based one. All right, so just a reminder, the Bailey Award is basically the opposite of Mr. Potter Award,
Correct.
right? And it goes someone who goes above and beyond to help others or makes a huge difference in the world,
Like it.
right? And one of those people was actually inspired by our last story,
Oh.
right? And that is New Hampshire State Representative Ellen Reed.
Oh.
Right, she was elected in 2016 from the Rockingham district of New Hampshire. She is the founder of New Hampshire Progressive Caucus, and she is the one who suggested the Satanic Temple put the Baphomet statue in Concord.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So, while that story brought my attention, it's not why she got this one.
I know you well
Right.
enough to know that.
It's actually, part of it is her history as a lawmaker that provided a huge amount of justification for this.
Oh.
Because
Okay.
I was like, I read this, I'm like, why would,
It was interesting that she was
right,
yeah,
and the way she was
pushing it.
talking, that's interesting.
Yeah,
right?
it sounds like there's
She's
more.
saying things that piqued my interest.
Right.
So I decided to do a little research on her. And I like the bills that she puts out.
Okay.
All right, in 2023, she got HB 421 passed and signed. This bill provided free menstrual products to incarcerated individuals who menstruate.
Wow, they're not free.
They're not free in the prison.
They have to pay for it themselves. I did not know that.
Yep.
Well, that's ridiculous.
And under the new law, state prisons, jails, and juvenile detention centers must provide sufficient menstrual hygiene products to individuals in custody who biologically menstruate at no cost.
Wow, I didn't know that was even a thing.
I didn't know that. I assumed, and that's ridiculous.
Because it's
What
not
do
like
they
they
get?
could run to the store
Exactly.
from their job and go get one.
Right.
you
It's
know?
not like they have money.
They earn like
So,
pennies, I think.
The way that it has to work in some cases is someone has to bring them the stuff.
Yeah, they can't go get it themselves.
Or it becomes a medical issue. And if the problem is if they don't have the pads and
The
stuff
supplies,
that
yeah.
they can get TSS,
That is very true.
right?
Yeah.
And toxic shock syndrome, right?
Mm.
Or you could get infections,
Yeah.
right? That's really important.
Right. Well, and if they want to look at it from a money standpoint, because that's where anyone ever looks at anything, that actually will wind up costing the state more money because now you have to treat their medical issues, which the state does cover.
So that got passed and is a law. So they have to provide it now.
That's good.
All right. And Surprised. Then in 2024, she's introduced a Circumcision Transparency Act.
Oh?
Yes. No healthcare provider shall circumcise any newborn child without first furnishing the parents a circumcision-specific and comprehensive informed consent form compliant with this section, right? A generic surgical consent form shall not be permitted. Has to be this pamphlet, and it talks about some of the dangers of circumcision, right? I'll read some of it specifically. This is what it has to have in the pamphlet. Circumcision is a medically unnecessary cosmetic procedure.
I've always said that.
Right? It is extremely painful and traumatic to children, causes some infants to go into shock, and can result in behavior and neurological changes.
Oh, really?
Right? Your son may want an intact penis, and the decision to have a circumcision denies him his bodily integrity and autonomy, which he may resent when he matures.
Yeah, I can definitely.
And no national medical organization in the United States, in the world, recommends circumcision. Even our medical community does not recommend it.
Well, and
it's a purely cultural and religious thing.
Right, and I was, we had girls, so we never had a boy, but I now have a grandson, and I am very grateful that my daughter did not have her son circumcised because that's exactly what I've always thought. It's not medically necessary. It seems you're taking things away from him that he has no choice, and it just seems like a painful procedure they don't need to go through.
Because
it's kind of torture.
It is. It is literally torture for that child.
I mean...
Right? So there are tons of people that are against female genital mutilation,
well, and that's where I was going with that.
And this is the same thing.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's no different than when you alter a female for genital disfigurement or, whatever. It's not right.
It's purely cultural. And it's recently cultural in the United States.
Well, and it's also, can't think of the word, but like when I spoke with older people, when I bring that up, they're like, oh, why would you not want him circumcised? They were like losing their mind.
Yeah.
Even a relative that's a nurse was surprised. I'm like, what do you mean? You of all people should not, be for it.
Because they were misled. So circumcision in America wasn't a big thing until there was this Puritan movement back in the early 1900s, right? And that's where all that came from. There's a lot of missions from.
Oh.
If I remember something, the cornflakes guy had something to do with that.
Okay.
Right? There was a lot
That's
of
weird.
weirdness. So if I remember, and this is just from memory, cornflakes guy, which would have made it late 1800s, was also against masturbation.
Okay.
Right? So he figured if we get guys circumcised, they're less likely to masturbate.
Oh, well, that didn't work. Not at all.
No.
Because the majority of men nowadays, men, not children, not boys, are circumcised for the most part just because of the time framing.
Cultural.
Yeah, the cultural aspect of it.
And it's just in the past couple decades, really, people have really started looking into
Slowly
this.
Started getting...
And it's getting less and less common.
Right. Yeah, because especially nowadays with the newer babies being born, it's getting less and less likely.
Right. Another bill related to circumcision would prohibit the use of Medicaid funds to perform non-medically necessary circumcision. There are medically necessary circumcisions, right? Deformities and things like
absolutely.
that, right? It's not... There are cases where it needs to happen.
Right. No, and I'm all for that, for sure.
So that means the state would no longer have to pay to mutilate young boys, which is what happens.
Right.
Right.
No, I agree with.
All right. There's also a patient's right to sterilization bill.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
It would prohibit doctors from denying sterilization procedures to adults based on age, number of children, or the physician's perception of the patient's future reproductive desires.
Right. And I've always had a real issue with that because their opinion is dictating your life.
Right.
So if you're like a woman in her late to mid 20s and you already know you don't want children for whatever reason that may be,
right?
You always get doctors to say, oh, you're too young, you'll change your mind.
What if your husband wants kids?
Yeah. And it's just, it's like, I mean, I understand that's something you need to sit and think about for a while. It's not an instant, I'm just going to go out and do this kind of thing. But at the same time, they shouldn't have a say.
No, they should
because
not.
of your age, or you don't have enough kids, or, you know, or whatever. It shouldn't be that way.
Right. This bill would also protect doctors from lawsuits if the patient has signed a consent form. So they can't come back and say, you ruined my life because you did a sterilization, right?
No, I
agree with that.
I agree completely with that. It needs to be.
And that's why a lot of doctors don't do it now.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and if you sign a consent freeing them of that, then just let it be that. That way they can get that sterilization that they want, and the doctor won't be liable if they change their mind later, because like I said, it's something you need to sit and think about before you just jump and do it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if that is the way you want to go, but after you've contemplated it, absolutely, then, you know, go for it.
All right. How about a bill that would prohibit companies from pricing goods and services based on the gender of the customer?
Oh, like the pink tools that piss me off. God, I hate that.
Yeah. No person, firm, partnership, company, corporation, or business shall charge a price for any service or good that is substantially similar if such services are priced differently based on the gender of the individuals for whom it is performed, offered, or marketed.
Did that pass, by the way?
I don't know. I have to find out.
I'm curious on that, because that should be a national thing. Because you get those stupid pink tools that wind up getting charged more, and you know, women's clothing and shoes and socks. That's
my biggest deal.
That's my biggest thing. This is why I buy men's t-shirts. One, they have better sleeves. Women's sleeves are
Half
stupid.
price.
And the pricing difference is absurd.
Right.
I mean, the crap that you buy for women's clothing is so much more than men's.
Sometimes you can get a better t-shirt.
Well, and honestly, you know, women's clothing, you have stupid sleeves. I mean, what is the number one thing women complain about? You know, those little chicken wing arms. But how do they make women's sleeves? Really stupidly short, which is why men's shirts are better. Men's shirts have thicker material most of the time. Women's shirts are very stupid thin.
Yep.
I don't understand who is designing this stuff, but regardless of that,
Men are designing it.
But the price of a woman's shirt is so much more than a man's, even if they're both t-shirts. Or say socks. Again, I'm buying socks in the men's section because they have better socks, better priced.
Right.
Now they're kind of way too big for me, but they're better priced and I like them better. I just, the pricing for women's thing, and yet they're the same thing as men, socks in general. And they're so much, or the pink tools. Those are more expensive than normal. Yeah, I know I'm ranting.
I know, that's fine. That's why we're here.
That's so frustrating.
All right. This would not apply to goods and services that have a different cost due to a manufacturer or supply issue. Uh-huh. So if it costs more to make it, they can charge more. Uh-huh. Right? But that's not going to happen.
Yeah, a sock is a sock.
Yeah, a sock is a sock.
You know.
A pink pen and a blue pen are the same cost.
The pink screwdriver and the man's black screwdriver.
Actually, the man's black screwdriver is probably more expensive because the pink ones are really cheap.
That is true. But in the cheap section of the screwdrivers, a pink should not cost more than a black one. It's ridiculous.
Okay. This next one I was a little iffy on because there's a little bit of... We'll talk about it. Okay. It says a person is illegally or unconstitutionally detained and arrested as determined by a legal finding, right? They can use that defense if they are also receive a resisting arrest charge.
Okay, translate that for me. I think I zoned out.
If you're being arrested, right, and you're resisting arrest, you know, you can get a resisting arrest charge, right? That's almost every single time everybody's getting a resisting arrest, even if you barely fight back.
Because they have with violence, without.
But if your arrest is found to be illegal or unconstitutional, that resisting arrest charge goes away.
It does not already?
It does not.
Wait,
so there are a ton of people who get felonies for resisting arrest when the thing they were being arrested for is thrown out.
How is that not a thing? That should just be common sense.
It should be. That's why there's a bill for it. Which is why it was iffy on it, because there are situations where people like really resist arrest and they go a little far. Yeah. Right?
And they shouldn't. But
So there's like this fine line, but it has to be adjudicated in a court of law as your arrest was illegal and unconstitutional.
Right. So maybe they behave, you shouldn't behave that way, but let's say they know that they're being unlawfully arrested
detained.
And that's why they're behaving the way they are.
Right.
Again, I say you shouldn't, but
if
it goes away, that should go away.
My biggest issue with this is how it's going to be used by people like sovereign citizens.
I was just wondering about the sovereign citizens.
Because a lot of times the sovereign citizens end up just getting convicted of resisting arrest because whatever they were doing was so minor the court just throws it out.
Right.
Right? It's is driving with their stupid traveler tag or without a license, right? And they refuse to identify themselves. You know, they did the whole sovereign citizen bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? And they usually resist at the same time.
Yes, they do.
So they end up with a resisting arrest charge, and that's what sticks.
Right. So I can see because...
But the difference is they are doing something illegal, and they are being legally
Well, and that's
detained.
where I was going with that. It's not that they're being unlawfully detained. They are breaking the law.
Sovereign citizens going to clog up the courts with this defense.
Oh, they already...
Right, they're already
clogging up the courts. But yeah,
that's a whole other episode, though.
So, but sovereign citizens... They are still breaking the law, though. So I don't see how that would be thrown out.
I'm not saying they would get thrown out. I'm saying they're going to try and use this defense, saying, I was unconstitutionally detained because I have a right to travel.
Right, which they're already doing that, and it isn't unlawfully detained because they are breaking law.
Right.
So they're technically just going to still be doing the same damn thing.
Yes, I know. They're just making their life more difficult.
Don't even get me started.
And most of them, they do self-representation.
Well, and have you ever noticed how most sovereign citizens are hiding something
illegal? Absolutely, yeah.
And that's kind of where they start the reason that they're doing the whole sovereign citizen thing, and I'm only traveling.
Yeah.
You know, you can't arrest me, blah, blah, blah. And then they come to find out they've got a warrant or they've got drugs hiding. You know, it's always come back to that.
But that's a whole rabbit hole.
Yes, I know.
That's a whole episode by itself.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. But by far, with all these other great bills that she's introduced, my favorite is this next one. So she has introduced a constitutional amendment to the New Hampshire Constitution that removed the word "so help me God" from the oath of office and replace it with "this I do under pains of penalty and perjury."
Wasn't it like that once upon a time?
No.
But it should not ever have...
And so she wants it in the Constitution so that you don't have to say it. Right. You don't have to elect not to say it. Right. If you want to say it, that's fine, is what she's saying. Right. But you have to say this.
You should not be forced to say it.
You shouldn't be forced to say it and shouldn't be forced to elect not to say it. You get my point?
Right, because even being forced to elect to not say it, you're still kind of getting yourself in trouble, you know? You're being ostracized.
Yes, you're having to make a different decision.
It's
Nobody
the
else
same
has
with
to
the
make.
kids having to go sit out in the hallway while they finish teaching the stuff that they don't get to learn.
So Representative Reed is a tireless advocate for people and even animals. Yeah. She has bills that address intentional breeding of dogs and cats with deformities. So
people do that?
Well, it's made specifically for those
breeders
who will intentionally breed, say like the snub-nosed dogs that have the breathing problems.
Oh yeah.
Right? They intentionally breed the worst ones so they get more of that pug nose, right? And that's dangerous, right? Yeah. So, you know, these bulldogs and pugs and stuff, they can't breathe anyway. Right. So why would you breed one that breathes worse?
Right.
And that's what she's talking about.
Continued.
And she wants to create an animal abuse registry. So that people who abuse animals get on a registry, and then they're not allowed to adopt animals more.
I think that should absolutely be a thing. Because you have some freaky people who want to adopt animals to do things to them intentionally. So they absolutely... It should be like a sex offender registry.
It should be.
I mean, you're on it, you don't get to adopt a pet.
Yep.
No, I'm all for that.
Yes, absolutely. And in my research, I discovered she's also a humanist.
Now, that does not surprise me one iota.
Yep. In an interview with the Humanist magazine back in August 2023, she stated, "My campaign slogan reflects this: people, planet, principles. As a humanist, decreasing human suffering, and indeed by extension all suffering, is my primary motivator." And that is the epitome of the George Bailey Award, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
As a humanist, we should strive to reduce suffering in others, and sometimes we have to make uncomfortable decisions. Yes. And that's what George Bailey had to do, time and time again. Yeah. And she's open about her secular views, right? In that same interview, she stated, "We must consistently remind each other the ideas that our whole government was founded upon, none of which was religion. Yeah. And to be closeted about secularism is to condone archaic, superstitious, power-serving, and backwards belief that lead to suffering."
I agree.
And that is why she is so deserving of the Bailey Award.
No, I agree. I agree completely because, you know, as she said, staying closeted, it just suppresses it, you know. You're never going to break through that ceiling if it's suppressed. Right. If it's hidden.
Right. And that's the whole thing about active resistance, which is why I've been active for so long.
Right. And when we lived in Washington, we were more so, of course, we were younger, but I do have to say, and I know from one of my daughters, being a very red state, it's very difficult,
Mhm.
and it tends to be uncomfortable because you are worried for your safety.
Right.
And one of my daughters is very outspoken about her aspects of it, and I unfortunately have to tell her she's got to be a little careful and, keep it down a little bit. And I hate saying that, but at the same time, there is a safety issue when it comes to a red state and the way they behave and react. You can't help it,
Look at what happened in New Hampshire, which is not a red state.
Yeah.
It's a libertarian state, but it's kind of red. But
Not red
it
like
votes
this.
blue-ish,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's not red like here.
Right. Montana is extremely red.
I mean, we have the friggin' billboard, Christian Jesus billboard park.
Oh, yeah. Over there by Glacier Park. There's a whole little park that this guy has. It's tons of billboards, and it's all God, Jesus, whatever. And he invites people to come in to visit it like it's an amusement park or something.
Yeah, it's
really weird.
Yeah.
But, here it's, Jesus this, God that, everywhere. There's some cars that are covered in Jesus bumper stickers. And, I had the one Einstein saying, but apparently people aren't smart enough to understand what that saying is, but that works for me.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you have to, you kind of get it out there in little ways.
You got to do it in little pieces.
In little ways in order to get it out there, but still say safe at the same time.
Yeah.
But it needs to be out.
So, again, like we asked last week, if you have Potter or Bailey Award nominees, send them to podcast@secularyacking.com. We'll evaluate them and do some digging, and maybe we'll use your awards.
Because, unfortunately, it's harder to find Baileys than it is Potters.
Yes.
It's a sad fact, but it is true.
Well, that's all the yakking I got for you this week.
That's all the yakking I've got.
All right. See you guys in a week.
See you in a week.
We always like to hear your feedback or an email at podcast@secularyacking.com.
More input.
All comments are welcome. We like to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly.
If you like our show, head over to your podcast directory of choice and leave us a 5-star review. If you really like the show, support the show on our Patreon page.
I'd buy that for $1.
And we'll be back next week with more yakking to please your eardrums.
Bye, boys.
Have fun storming the castle.
Think it'll work?
It would take a miracle.
Goodbye.